Welcome, everybody. It's your boy, the Versace Stoner. We're here with a very special episode of VSW. Tonight, we have a very special guest. That's right, the Cornerman, Juan Jeremy. Welcome.
What's up? It's the UNO unugly #1 cornerman Juan Jeremy. Man,
Welcome to the VSW.
pleasure, my brother. Pleasure.
I tell you, you look like someone that I would want in my corner.
Some people tell me it's like, it's funny because I wasn't supposed to be a cornerman. But since we train at a Gleason's gym, a whole bunch of guys, the old timers, usually when you came and joined the Gleason's gym, you could have came with a name, but it didn't necessarily mean you're going to get that name. Usually you got it from the boys. Like they'll just come up with names for you. Like we had one dude called Chancleta Man. Like he's like, I don't want to be Nah, you Chancleta Man and stuff. And like Striker got his name. Matt Striker got his name from Matt Striker, and there was like this whole significant meaning behind it. And there was like two Matt Strikers at the time. The unibrow Matt Striker, and then you had regular Matt Striker. And then we had Rolo Willie and like Masha Slamovich. Years later, it was I who helped her come up with the name Masha Slamovich because she had Annie Blue, Skid Ripper. And then when I told her, hey, we left out Gleason's and she started doing indies, and I said, yeah, you can't be Skin Ripper or Annie Blue. And then I was like, think of the female names you can use. And she wanted to use, I believe it was her grandmother. Masha is her grandmother's name. And I said, I was like, slam a bitch. But we can't use slam a bitch. So let's use Slamovich. And she did that. But like in respect to me, years going back, and back in 2000, they wanted me to be Juan Jeremy, like a porn star. And then I have a trench jacket, sort of like James Brown, like open up the bag. And if somebody covers me, like I'm like, who wants to see my 2-set? Have a manager with an urn like Paul Bearer, but it's like Vaseline. And if you take it away, I lose my powers. And then Johnny Watts was like, no. This is family show. We in Gleason's gym. You're gonna be Cornerman. And I was like, Cornerman, alrighty then. Who am I to say no? So, you do what you're told. All right, I'm a Cornerman. And your jackets, they sell right in the gift shop, right in the Gleason's gift shop. So you can't say you can't find a Cornerman jacket. And they do sell them. You come to Gleason's gym, to this day, they sell Cornerman jackets. There's a rack and everything. So I couldn't say, I can't find a Cornerman jacket and everything. And then, they had that. And then one dude, young dude called Big Al, he's short. So me and some people gave him a name, Big Al. And then when Bobby, this is a funny story, just to jump a little bit, so jumping back, Bobby Lashley, Johnny had a money mark guy who was helping him run lucha shows out of this nightclub called La Boom. That was all he was, a money mark. Johnny just took advantage of that because the guy wanted to do shows. Johnny, okay, we do it.
Yeah.
So this is at the time when Bobby Lashley was taking indie bookings. Bobby Lashley. This is a great story.
Yes.
Then I'll go back to the beginnings again, but I was just going to the topic of the names.
Yep.
So Bobby Lashley was supposed to team with Homicide against two of Johnny's kids, two guys that Johnny had, one of his students, to go against Homicide, I believe it was, and Bobby Lashley, or it was one Lashley teaming up with one student and Homicide with the other, but whatever it was, I can't remember what was the case. But the Money Mark promote guy didn't tell Johnny that Homicide wasn't showing up. It was LAX that told him, and Johnny got upset. It's like, how you not tell me? I had to hear it from talent, Ortiz and Santana. And then he goes, Juanito, tell Big Al, he's going to be teaming up with Lashley. Until Lashley, he's teaming up with Big Al. So I went up to Bobby Lashley. I said, Mr. Lashley, there's been a change in the match, and your partner now is going to be Big Al. And he said, oh, okay, well, he's around. I said, don't worry, you know who he is when you see him and everything. And then we all do the Johnny Rods gets together, and he's going around. He's like, okay, meeting guys, the whole Wild Out, the show. Hey, guys, don't do this. So then he's like, and he runs down the list of the people, the matches. And he's like, Bobby Lashley, you will be with Big Al. So he's looking around, Lashley's looking around, and he's like, where's Big Al? And Big Al taps him right here. And he's like, you're Big Al? Because he's like short, dude. We call him that because he looks like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Tom and Jerry, like the character.
Yeah.
Cousin Muscles. And he come beat up the cats. Like we used to tell him, yo, why don't you wear a turtleneck and a derby, wear a cigar, be like a little runt.
He was jacked up.
Yeah, little short dude, but he's jacked up and everything. So we used to call him Big Al and everything.
That's great.
But the whole nature of how I decided to join wrestling, supposedly, because I was a toddler, my dad, may he rest his soul, he had said that when we moved from Brooklyn, when I was a toddler, maybe a year old or two, he went with my mom, that was his first wife. And we moved to California, and then he used to go to the wrestling shows in the Olympic Auditorium. This is according to him. I don't record nothing. And then when we moved back to Brooklyn, because he missed his family. My mother's family was mostly out there. He had no family. So his family missed him, and I dragged him back to Brooklyn. And next thing you know, we're watching, he would put TV on. I would watch on the Spanish channels, WWE and Florida Championship Wrestling.
Yep.
They used to be on the New York channels over there, but in the Spanish, the UHF channels.
Yeah, and if you ever, like, as a kid, you didn't really think of it, but you'd watch WWE. I mean, I always did. And you would always see, the Spanish ring announcers table. And for the longest time, you didn't really know if that was real, but it really was. It was really broadcasting.
Yeah. And they had it for a long time. I didn't know they had the Spanish announce team. They would have some English when they were on the UHF channel because I guess the channel was cheaper to purchase. But then later they went to this channel called UPN9, and I would still watch it there. But I think it was back there, the Ben Franklin or horse racing and stuff. But then I would watch it there. And then one day I got to my old elementary school, Holy Family Catholic school. They used to, when WWE used to do little gymnasiums, they went to my Catholic school. And I got to, my mom took me and my brother to the McDonald's that was across the street. And me and my brother saw Rocky Johnson inside the McDonald's. And we was like, oh my God, Rocky Johnson. Then we got to see, like, I think it was Ray the Crippler Stevens against Jay Strongbow, Pedro Morales. I want to say against Baron McCaster Kuna and everything. But it was inside of our Catholic school.
For the people that were wondering, he is talking about The Rock's dad, not The Rock.
Right. The Rock's dad. The soul man, Rocky dad. Johnson. The one that can do the drop kick and everything.
But in the that show that came out, the Young Rock, you see all these characters, and it was kind of like that back then. I thought they did a really good portrayal of the era.
Yeah, I liked it because they did a little more slapstick, a little comedy, but yet they really talked about the past. Those are some great talent. And what I liked about wrestling back then, no one looked cookie cutter. That's the problem with today's wrestlers. Everybody's a cookie cutter. Like if you're gonna have a gimmick, the couch potato, and the couch potato probably got six-pack abs, like all cut up, like he a CrossFit guy, and you're like, that ain't a couch potato. Couch potato supposed to have that big belly, like tank top, and I don't want to do nothing, man.
That's one thing I do miss about these eras of wrestling, 70s, 80s, and even like most of the 90s, is that the age of the big man is kind of gone. Not that and it's not even like there is still big men, but you're right. They're all muscular. They're all in shape. back then, not everybody was in shape, or if they were, they
Yeah,
didn't look it. You had people like Haystacks Calhoun, King Kong Bundy. You had these larger than life guys coming out. They
yeah,
weren't, they didn't have no six pack.
yeah. And
um,
even some people that didn't was so big, like you look at a Barry McClure Sakuna, a Johnny Rods,
yep.
even what you call Greg Valentine, uh, even Sergeant Slaughter wasn't like a muscular dude back in the days. Him,
No. And even some of the bigger
the
guys
the
could move.
Freebirds minus Terry Gordy. Terry Gordy was a monster. But you're looking at say Michael Hayes and Buddy Roberts. They weren't that great of a shape guys, but they drew money.
No, I mean, even the young Rockers, Shawn Michael, when he was tagging,
Yeah,
he wasn't all cut.
yeah, exactly. When they were doing that AWA run and even prior, they weren't all that great. But
No, I
like,
mean, the first real muscle, I mean, there was a lot. I mean, you had like Tony Atlas, obviously,
yeah,
but the real guy pushing the arms was Hogan at the time, the Pythons.
yeah, him like an early superstar Billy Graham, not when he was like Kung Fu Billy Graham and
No,
everything.
that early renovation, yes.
Yeah, Kung Fu Billy
So,
Graham. I didn't even know that was him. I was like, yo, who is this Billy Graham guy? And stuff. When he came back, he was like Kung Fu Billy Graham with the Kung Fu grip. And I'm like, gee, I'm like, hmm. But
so you were at this show, and
yeah,
you were at
I'm
McDonald's.
like, oh my God, I'm a kid. And then my grandmother's boyfriend at the time got tickets for MSG. And then we was there when he took us to the show where Snooker and Andre wrestled the Wild Samoans and Snooker jumped off Andre's shoulders. I was at that live event. That
Oh
was the
my,
as a child, that was the only one I went to in the 80s, MSG. And it turned out to be a famous one where he
yeah.
jumped off the shoulders of Andre the Giant. And then I would see Johnny Rods wrestle Baron McCann there. And then I think Rocky Johnson, I think Eddie Gilbert was on that show. Drew Strongbow wrestled Big John Studd, Jay Strongbow wrestled Raider Clifton Stevens and everything. And it was like,
A hell of a card.
yeah, the old school card. And then, later down the road, my grandmother worked for a dentist place and one of her patients, she did the medical bills and everything or the paperwork. If you would go to the dentist, she would be the person to process your paperwork. I believe it was that or a dental assistant, either or. And the Haiti kid was a patient there and
Oh
everything. So,
wow.
so she invited him over to the house, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's the Haiti kid!" And there's a picture. I think my uncle has it of him lifting him up, lifting my uncle up on his shoulders. Like he came from underneath, and he just went like that and lifted him. Either my cousin or my uncle got that photo in Orlando and everything. But he's still alive, but he's kind of sick. I heard and
Yeah,
everything.
I heard similar. All these guys, and unfortunately, and that's the difference. Where they weren't so keen on the athleticism part, a lot of guys didn't make it.
Yeah, you
Today's
know.
wrestlers, why they are cookie cut, they are in better health and shape.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Only back in the '90s where it deteriorated a bit because of the drug use. But it's
Well, that's what it
like,
was.
yeah,
You know,
because you had a lot of people, like even people I knew that I started with, they wanted to live. I want to say they wanted to live that lifestyle because when I joined, like still ECW era, party, rock star life. We used to go out drinking, doing all just a lot of drinking. That's all. And then we were trying to be Emily, like, oh my God, yeah, yeah, yeah. We do a show, then we go party, la la la, and everything. And it was like it was good at the time and everything, but you know, and then I understood why maybe some of these guys didn't really make it because they wasn't allowing their body to rest. We would go out late night, boom, 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 chug beers, out, have fun, and maybe other people did far worse and everything. But while like if you hear the stories like Johnny Rods would tell us, they would go to the Hojo, Howard Johnson, right there by Madison Square Garden, and then they'll be right there having beers all night. Andre the Giant, because I just did a show. I do this performing arts wrestling called Kaiju Big
Yep.
Bad in Massachusetts.
Okay.
We did an event in Massachusetts just this past weekend in Everett, Massachusetts, and they shut down everything quick. Like 11 p.m. They had a hard close. We got to be out. It is. We got to start breaking down. They got to be out the building. And then Johnny was telling me, yeah. And he told us a story. He told me a story about him and Andre driving back. And, they couldn't get into Connecticut's worse. They like midnight, but they would just and they close it early or something like that. But they were driving by Massachusetts. And then they didn't make it in time to get beer and liquor. So they talked to the bartender and they say, listen, you got a garbage dump on the side? And he's like, yeah. Listen, we'll give you some cash. Go to the garbage dump. They believe you're gonna throw out some beer, like they're a box, and you're just throwing them out in the garbage, and we'll pay for it and everything. And they only did it because it was Andre the Giant. It's Andre the Giant and Johnny Wild, just them two in the car. And then because you can't sell liquor and beer at a
No,
certain time in Massachusetts.
and Mass used to be really strict. Like Sundays, no liquor.
Yeah,
We used to have all different laws. It's a little bit better now, but yeah.
yeah. He said Andre and negotiated where they gave the guy money, and then he made it seem like he was putting a case of beer or something in the garbage, and they came around and picked up the whole case, just went back to the car and drove.
And I'm
Drove
sure
away.
Andre had most of them. I heard he could drink quite
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah. Johnny always says that he can always drink. Mr. Fuji was a ribber. Frank Williams, yeah, it was like he was the jinx. Like you saw Bronx Tale,
Yep.
the mush. It's
Yep.
like he's like, oh, I made a bet on that. Oh my God, no! It's like so you and I go out drinking. We meet some girls, and then Frankie Williams with us, and we try to talk to the girls. Frankie Williams come, forget it. He's gonna kill the vibe, and the girls is gone. So then, like, say if it's you, me, and um any other wrestler, and then that wrestler does something, he's like, "Oh man, you Frankie Williams it." It's so whenever somebody messed up an outing with girls or something, trying to get some girls, and they would call it Frankie Williams.
And
Or
I
you Frankie
believe
Williams
like
it.
I believe like, that era of kind of just not like any kind of celebrity partying like that is kind of gone because like now everybody's got a phone and a camera. They'll be like, oh, there's Andre, there's this one, there's that
Yeah,
one. Like everything is so much
very
trackable. But back
very
then,
rarely you had anybody carrying a regular camera on them. You know,
no.
you
That's what I'm
didn't.
saying. You're saying you have photos, but like that's very rare for the time because you had to have the camera and everything and have the right setup.
Yeah,
It wasn't just a matter of pulling out the phone and taking a
yeah.
snap,
Like
you
with
know.
the picture of my uncle, the Haiti kid, was a family. We was at the I think it was Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner, and everybody was there. So someone had the camera, and I want to say it was my uncle's family who, that Haiti kid lifted. So they took the picture. I remember seeing it. So one of them, the family, I actually on my Facebook, I'll send it to you. It's in my Facebook where you see the Haiti kid with me. I got my little old school lumberjack picnic shirt, like the old school cut. And then you see him, he's in the picture with my
That's
dad and my
awesome.
uncle.
So I
Yeah,
mean, once you went to these shows in Madison Square, you just knew
yeah,
this was for you.
yeah. It was destined in a way because here I am in Catholic school, and they're like, come into Holy Family School, WWF. And you're like, what? I'm like, oh my God. I told my mom I wanted to go. She said, you better not misbehave. And that's how she used to get me and my brother. Whenever we went to a doctor's appointment, we went to one of our family members' house, uh, any friends' outings or anything. She would get us a wrestling book, either the Wrestler, the Pro Wrestling Illustrated, anything, and she'll say, "You read this magazine and stay put and be quiet. I don't want to hear a word and everything." And then that's all we would do. Some people were like, "Oh, your kids are so well behaved." It was because we had the wrestling magazines.
Yep.
Once I read
Thank
one, I'm
God for
sitting there,
those.
I'll be reading like this, and then I'm done. I'm like, all right, Jay. My brother's name Jay. So, all right, Jay, pass me yours. Then we'll switch. Then I'm
Yep.
reading the one he's reading, and that's what kept us well behaved and
I mean,
everything.
if you think about it, though, that was how anybody got their info. There was no, all these shows. There was no internet. If you
Yeah,
wanted to see what was happening on the West Coast, and if they were good enough, well, you had to read the magazine. You had to read the PWIs. I had the PWIs, the WWF magazine.
yeah,
I used to love that, all that stuff. That whole media, and it's kind of gone now. The
yeah.
magazine game.
The surprise part of wrestling is gone. I remember when somebody popped up, like, oh my God, you know, say Harvey Wimpleman. He was downtown Bruno in the South. I'm like, oh, Harvey Wimpleman's in the WWE manager now. He was downtown Bruno in the
Yeah.
South.
I mean, I mean, like, for instance, like now you mentioned Harvey, but I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, 90, what was it, 94, or 93 rather, he pops up with Giant Gonzalez. Nobody knew what the hell was going on. If that was today, we would have known that, El Gigante has left, 6 months ago from WCW, was heading
Yeah,
to WWF, was in negotiations, eyeing the Undertaker. Like, we would have known the whole story today.
yeah. Unless you read the magazines and followed WCW, you would have known. And like, sort of like when the who was it? The like Boris Zukov. I remember when he came in and they used him as a replacement tag for Iron Sheik and everything because I guess Sheik left, I think.
Yep.
So now what you gonna do with Nikolai Volkov? So what he do? I say, oh my God, it's Boris Zukov or Sergeant Nelson. That's how I go. I would go, Private Nelson. This is how I go back. Private Nelson was a wrestler in the Mid Atlantic with Sergeant Slaughter and Don Canuto, and that was Boris Zukov. So I'm like, oh, it's Private Nelson and Boris Zukov from AWA and everything. Now he's in the WWE because they needed a new Russian to team up with Nikolai, the Bolsheviks.
And that was the thing. It was very, I don't want to say racist, but very racial. They were very
Yeah,
big into playing, the nationalities
yeah.
and
Remember?
political too. Like Hogan and versus Slaughter, that was big because of the Gulf War.
Oh yeah,
You couldn't get away with that today.
yeah. But you see how it drew. It just drew. It drew that you attracted to it. You know.
Oh yeah. As a kid, we were enthralled, and even today, I would probably still be enthralled in that. But like I said, like today with just everything, it's hard. They don't mix the politics, and they can't. And other things, the things that used to fly, they just kind of nixed. Everything's kind of safe.
Yeah. Over then, back then, I loved it. Like even look what they did to Tony Atlas. He was just Mr. USA Tony Atlas, and then I'm not sure if you remember, but Samba Simba when they turned him into like Samba Simba and everything. I'm like, come on, man, nah. You should have just brought in somebody else for that. Don't tell me Tony Atlas like that and everything. And then
Mm.
Jimmy Snooker, they tried to make into some extravaganza too during that era. They gave him more gimmicky outfit. I'm like, no, just let him be with those
Be
bangle
himself.
stripes, trunks, or whatever.
So you went to the training school and you started
Yeah.
training, learning the
So
ropes.
yeah, so I knew it had to be like destiny because all these little factors came in. So I go to college, regular adult life, going to college. I'm studying marketing and advertising. I always like advertisements since the
Yep.
Super Bowls and everything. So I worked for a Hispanic ad agency, but then everything that glitters isn't gold. What they teach you in the textbook in college, once you get to the real world, there's nothing like that. Nothing.
No.
It's nothing. That was a cutthroat industry. And if you're a part of somebody's team, sort of like football, when say you're a coach, you're offensive coordinator, your head coach gets fired. 9 out of 10 times, that offensive coordinator is going. I'm going. They're
Yeah,
gonna
they're
let
going to
me go
replace the
too.
whole team.
Yeah,
And the
because
other guy
that
that's going
the
to bring
new
his
new
whole
head coach
team
is gonna
in.
bring his own squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
So
how most things really work, honestly. I hate to be like that. New places open. I mean, I'm big into, cannabis, obviously, and the
Yeah,
medical cannabis industry. A lot of places were opening years ago, right? You try to get a job, they're like, well, we already got this many people. Why? Because people are coming in with teams of people, like you said,
yeah.
they're coming in 20 deep, whole marketing teams, whole, sales teams.
They come with
And if
their
they have a
squad and
position, they have a
everything.
position. And that's how most, companies really do work.
Yeah, it's a click and
It is.
everything. And I
Who
got
you know?
disgusted. I got disgusted. And then I was like, nah, if I can't do this. I didn't like it. So at the time it was Netscape Navigator. So I'm at work. I'm twiddling my fingers on the thing. I'm like, something told me pro wrestling training, or I think training because I was into ECW at the time, ECW training and stuff. And I was like, Taz, Devon, you, I think it was Bill DeMont. I think Taz, Devon, and Bubba, they were talking about trained at Gleason's gym. I was like, hold on 1 minute, Gleason's gym. I just knew that famous for boxing and a little bit of kickboxing, Muay Thai, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what the hell? So I did my research. Boom, boom, boom. I called up, and then Johnny Vaz was like, "Hey, come down," and everything. And I'm like, "All right." Now I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this and everything." But prior to that, I forgot a good point story. I used to be a vendor at Yankee and Shea Stadium. So what really put another pointer that really put that had me searching for schools was that same week at my other part-time job. I worked full-time at Hispanic ad agency, then part-time at Yankee Shea Stadium selling beer, peanuts, Cracker Jacks, yelling that stuff out all across the aisles. Some vendors that I worked with was like, yo, let's become wrestlers. My friend Rizzo
Ah,
Alon. So I was doing research. I found one school, they wanted to charge me $60. I said, forget that. I said, you'll forget that, man. So then when I found out, when I told them, they got discouraged. So they didn't do it. I said, I'm sorry, guys, I'm gonna do it. So that's when the next day I went on Netscape and I was searching for ECW. But then now Johnny tells me come in. So this is November 1999. I got his little card that he gives you when you ever go join the Johnny Rod School. He gives you the number, the amount that you want to join, and he gives you his business card and say, come back. Like he was gonna give me a payment plan. He's like, oh, you could start next week. I was like, no, 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 no. I'm gonna get my money and I'm gonna pay you in full when I got all the money. I'm not coming half-ass. I want this. So January came and I had all the money because I was at Yankee Stadium. I was with a group of people and they used to have it from the warehouse and they used to give me I can't get incriminated now. I doubt it. But they used to give people extra boxes and hide it behind the garbage pails. And they were like, hey, Loge 22, garbage pail. There's a box of peanuts for you. I'm like, all right. And I'll cut it in half for them to sell. So it would be a little extra money for me. And then whatever tips I made from the fans was mine and everything. So I was from November to early January, I was doing that to stack up more money to pay for Johnny Rods. And then January came, I was his first student of 2000. So he called me the Millennium Kid. That was actually my first name, but it wasn't really legit. I only wrestled the Millennium Kid once in the Battle Royal and stuff. That was me and Stryker was in there, and I had Matt Stryker eliminate me. It was we joined the same year and everything. But my legit wrestling name, it was the one they chose, was the Juan Jeremy. But that's how I joined in 2000. And then the rest was history. The rest was all just training. And the training was much different. It's nothing like now. Like we had to tone down a bit because we can't be so rough with other members because now you get canceled or you're being too hard on the person and everything.
a
You
lot of
know,
different sensitivity things as
a
of
lot of
today compared to
sensitivity.
that.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm talking about
and
2000.
and yeah, even in 2000, people don't get it. Like it was a totally different generation still.
Yeah,
Um,
because the people who trained me had trained under WCW guys like Big Vito, Adrian Bird, Then these WWE enhancement guys like L.A. Gore, and these guys were in the WWE. They had to end. They were in WCW. Then you had guys like Angel the Baldy. Sometimes Devon would come back. Bill DeMont back in the days, and Roger the Musketeer. He was there during the end of the ECW, the Musketeer. He was with Simon
Plus, I
Diamond.
mean, you're talking 2000, so you had, ECW run, you had XPW running, you had
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of violence on wrestling. It was
yeah.
that era.
And then
Um,
a lot of guys from Johnny was part of that. Like the Dead Presidents, they weren't during in XPW during the last thing. They did. I got when they told me they wanted to do the show at XPW and ECW arena. I went to go support them, and they wrestled Smokey Carmichaels and Malcolm X, Brian XL instead of Malcolm XL
oh
and everything.
yeah. I
And
mean, wrestling was pushed probably to the biggest limit in those days, with ECW running and XPW. Both were very highly controversial. I mean, XPW, the guy went to jail.
yeah,
Um, I actually went to his return show. It wasn't bad, but it's nothing like it was, that's for sure. But but yeah, totally different era. So I can imagine the training was different. I was gonna ask that how it compared to today's kind of regime.
no,
But again,
it's
it
totally
totally
not the
different.
same. And now is a lot more entitlement, instant gratification, and everything. Today I was listening to um, Dutch Mantel with Al Snow, and one of the things I got out of it was when Al Snow told one of his students at OVW he didn't really make it to big time until 15 years after he joined, and then the kid was like, "Well, why you took so long to like even push yourself to join?" He's like, "Because I did it because I wanted to become a wrestler. I didn't do it." And that was the difference between back then. And I was like, oh my God, that's a key point. Everybody wants to join one of the big corporate, big time companies. Yes, I would love to join. Am I? Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe never. Maybe yes. Maybe somehow pot of luck, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for me or something. But he said it. He's like, he didn't join wrestling. He loved it. He watched it as a kid. He went to the shows and everything, and he wanted to do it. His goal wasn't to get signed, but to a big company. But now he said, even his own students at OVW Academy, he said he gets frustrated when he hears them say, "Oh, I want to sign here, I want to sign here," and he can tell like they just want that instant gratification where it's not even
Yeah,
learning the craft.
and I mean, it's kind of I mean, you got people out there now, I would say, like, they want to see themselves somewhere decent within like a year. They don't, nobody wants a job, nobody wants to lose, nobody, everybody wants to eventually have a title. A lot of these things they think are important weren't even like talked about back in the day. They just went out there, wrestled. It didn't matter if you won, you lose, if you were just, whatever. You just, again, wanted to wrestle.
Yeah.
It's like football. A lot of people love football. Very few are making it to the
I
NFL.
I didn't realize how much of an enhancement worker Al Snow was
It
until like
was.
YouTube came out. He was out since he even wrestled Bruiser Brody in AWA.
But you know what? Almost all the greatest superstars were at some point, enhancement talent or put out a lot of volume. Unless you were someone
Yeah,
like Hogan that was an instant sign champion and didn't have to job out, other people were fine. And there's some guys that made careers of just losing. They were very solid wrestlers. They just never got far with it. And they're cool with it. They're fine.
yeah.
Today's roster, I don't think it would be too happy. And nobody, I don't think, would waste 15 years not
Amazing
getting
worker,
anywhere.
amazing workers like George South. He was an amazing worker. Barry Horowitz and stuff, another great worker. But they never WWE never gave him that push except when he did that Horowitz wins, Horowitz wins when he did that nice 3/4 Nelson on Chris Candido after the push up.
Oh yeah. Two of my favorite superstars never really went anywhere. That's George Steele and Ernie Ladd. They they were great wrestlers, but they never really, won titles or anything.
Yeah. Ernie went on to like be a booker and everything and stuff and learned the backstage stuff. Sometimes, you can do that. Look, JB Noble still got a job with the WWE.
Oh
He,
yeah, I mean, you'll still see a lot of the wrestlers, some of them, not a lot, but they'll be on there, and then you'll see their names when they get released, and then they come back, and so a lot. It is nice to see though, like familiar names getting to go backstage and do the back end work, and don't have to just leave the industry because a lot of them it is passion. It is about
yeah,
wrestling.
yeah. That's why like Al Snow said something about he had got frustrated because that whole thing about people just wanting instant gratification. It's not like learn everything. It's like the training, like anybody become a wrestler, anything. Like at one time when I joined wrestling with Johnny, you couldn't just wrestle. You had to get a license. I still got my license. I keep it as a memory.
That's
I was
true.
like,
And in some states you still do. Mass, no, but like New York, yeah. Other states, I think you still do.
now New York, you don't need it no more. No
No,
more. They just have the
but you have an
commission.
athletics commission though.
Yeah,
Still,
that's it.
no
But like,
bleeding.
yeah, but like in New York at the time, you had to get approved by your coach and
Yep.
everything. You had to get approved by a certified wrestling trainee under the New York State Athletic Commission. It couldn't be like Joe Schmo next door. Hey, he trained me. Nope. It had to be like one of these wrestling schools that was accredited by the New York State
By
Athletic
the
Commission.
commission, yeah. And then, yeah, that aspect is kind of gone. And then now you do got kind of Joe Schmo training you, and it shows. These people will show up at shows or they'll get booked somehow, and then you can tell the difference.
Hey, Al Snow wanted to get more restrictive in Kentucky. He went up to the commission and proposed where they had to do all these kind of tests and like stuff in order for you to be certified to be a pro wrestler in the state of Kentucky. And they didn't go for it. He's like that. They blew him off. But then he's the only wrestling school in the United States that is accredited with the I want to say academics where you get accredited, you get a certificate and everything. You learn about the backstage, the in ring, physical,
You're
everything. You take
learning
classes.
all the showmanship and all of that, as well as how to
Yes,
wrestle and how
it's
to
a trade
wrestle.
school.
You could come out as your own business, if technically as a promoter or
Yeah,
book
they
or
do
whatever it
finance
might be.
class too. He's teaching finance classes and everything. So it's like a whole. It's a trade
That's
school.
smart though, because wrestling is a trade, and it's not just for the people in the ring. There's people like you know, for instance, me. I wanted to be a wrestler. Around the same time, I graduated in '01. I went to Killer Kowalski School. I walked in. He looked at me. He said, "No, I'm 5'8". No, you're not a pro wrestler. Again, not the right height, not the right size." I went into boxing, amateur boxing, but you know, later on I would want to do, other things like commentating and this and that. And again, now there's places for that where before there, you had to kind of know
Oh
someone to
yeah.
get in there.
Johnny tells me, Juanito, if you was around when I first started the club, he had different clubs. He had the Lower East Side one where Jim Powers was at, Diamond Jim Brady, there's other guys, Mike Masters. And then his first student, John, S.D. Jones, was trained in the basement of Lower East Side Manhattan. Then
Oh,
he had a gym
wow.
where it was just nothing but mats. And then he trained with Car Gotch when Car Gotch was around with Rene Goulet era. And he trained with Car Gotch with Kevin Sullivan, this guy Baba Roja, Frank Martinez in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and everything. That's how he learned all the Gotch stuff. And then hooking Johnny Rods from Car
And that's
Gotch.
just history right there. I mean, most people wouldn't even know that today, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
those names even alone. And it's great, to see heritage and stuff still around and still being taught.
yeah. He'll once in a blue teach it. Like there's a video I'll send it of him just stretching me out and everything. He just hooked in. He's like telling me to move, and if I move, my ankle's gone. There's a position where he moves. He's laying down on me, but like If I try to move another direction and thinking I'm getting out, I'm actually putting pressure on another part of the body that he's laying on and everything. So it's like these things like Car Gotch and everything. And he said that Billy Robinson, he said he had a good match with Billy Robinson, but Billy Robinson, was a shooter. So then he liked to come into Madison Square Garden and like to shoot. But then Johnny was not trying to hit that. He wanted to work, but then they wanted him to get the work out of Billy. But then Billy wanted to shoot, and he would shoot back and everything.
Back when it was a little bit more physical.
Yeah, like he got it in a real shoot with like Kevin Von Erich, Mike Graham. And don't mention Gino Hernandez around him. He don't like Gino and everything.
But I mean, that goes with the era, though. I feel like a lot of wrestlers in that era would go out and shoot because they had something to prove. They wanted to be this tough force, and you had fans kind of going, "Nah, that's all pretend," or "Nah," So they would go out and prove themselves.
Yeah.
And a lot of them didn't take shit, especially in the locker room. And locker rooms were different. You must know. You can attest to that,
Yeah.
rather.
Tony Atlas told us a story where he was like, you had to, and he repeated it at this Hamburg, Pennsylvania autograph signing. He had said the same story, so I'm guessing it's true because he said it to the T. I did a show with him in New Jersey, and he told the whole locker room the story. And then he said it again at this Hamburg breakfast autograph signing, where I think it was Gene or Lars Anderson with Sweet Hansen in Georgia, and they had to test him to see how real he was. And Sweet Hansen got him to go to a bar that was like, old country racist folks. And then I think they got in a fight. He got into a fight because then, like his cousin, and then he came out as a winner. He came out surviving, and then you're one of the boys. Something along those lines. And you had to prove yourself. Like they couldn't hear that you lost a bar fight and everything.
You had to be really tough then. And you would hear about wrestlers that were tough. Like Harley Race was known for being really tough. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, another one. I've seen a few videos with him shoot wrestling, and it's pretty intense. He's tough.
Yeah, talking. I remember watching Channel 7 News in New York. My brother and I, and there's like 2 WWF wrestlers arrested, and then you see the pickup truck, and it was like for drug possession, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Young Sheik. I'm a little kid, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, no, they're supposed to be fighting each other.
Yeah, ruined. That killed the kayfabe a little bit.
Yeah, it was bad. It was funny. I remember it to this day when it came out news break, and then it's like 2 WF wrestlers, and they didn't say who. It was just like a news break to get you surprised so you could tune in at 6 p.m. And I'm like, this, who is it? Who is it? Then when I see who it is, I'm like, no, it can't be.
Can't be. They were just fighting.
Yeah, he would hit him with the 2x4 all the time.
One was rooting for America. One was totally foreign power.
Yeah. And everything. But that was the great eras, good times. But like now in somebody's generation, they probably like, oh man, the guy's not in shape and everything. Like say, like Duggan just looked like a big dude. He wasn't like bulky. He wasn't like a Rick Rude. He wasn't.
No, but he was stocky. He's stocky. He was. I want to say a lot of wrestlers were built like football players back then.
That's the point I wanted to make. Thank you for saying that. Because, okay, the wrestlers all look different. That's my point. I like the characters were different. Like I said, they wouldn't have the couch potato gimmick and the guy have a 6-pack looking like a Calvin Klein's underwear model. He can't be the couch potato. That ain't a couch potato. This dude looks like he's never in a house. He's in the gym doing CrossFit. How can he be a couch potato? But like Duggan, even Sheik, like Volkov, Blackjack Mulligan,
Earthquake looked like an earthquake. He
Earthquake.
Came out and he would rumble it. He would jump on the ring. It was sellable.
Mantor.
He's another one.
Yeah, you know, at the time, the 1, 2, 3 kid looked like a kid.
He did. He was like a young high school kid. Or he looked it anyways. I remember the Raw, and he came in. I'm like, he looks about a year or two older than me, and I'm like, he just beat Razor Ramon, and we're just me and my friends just like, does this happen? Like, because Razor was a pretty big guy, and
Yeah,
I had watched him previous from WWE, so I kind of had known of him, and
yeah,
know, and just to see him lose like that was kind of shocking because things like that just didn't happen then. And that was, when WWE just started and Raw was kind of just getting going on TV wise, on USA.
yeah. That's the thing. Like you mentioned, like they look like football players, more like football players. But that's what made the characters better. Like
And
as
I
you
think,
mentioned,
also some of them played in high school, and a lot of them were high school athletes. WWE recruited a lot from, athletes. We did have former football players, but everybody did look different. You had skinny people, big people, overweight people, underweight people, people that were too skinny.
but
Um,
like I'm not sure if you go back with Playboy Buddy Rose.
I've
You
seen
know,
matches. I mean, I didn't watch it like
he could do a nip
religiously. Then
up.
it was,
He could do a nip up for a chubby guy. He was very agile. Adrian Adonis,
he was
very
a great
agile,
wrestler.
moved. Dick Murdoch, moved. You could watch him move around quick and
Well,
everything. For
that's
him.
the thing. The big guys were pretty fast back then. Even people like, Bam Bam Bigelow, who was doing
Yeah,
cartwheels.
Cartwheel.
Big boss man, very big, very agile.
Yeah, Boss Smith, another one. You can tell how agile it was to do
But he
movements.
wasn't, in shape. He wasn't muscular. He looked very out of shape if you looked at him with the shirt on and everything.
Yeah, but like when he came up with a character, you knew, okay, the big boss man. Oh man, he's that he's that officer, the chill, he's big
But
boy
he
officer.
looked like one.
Yeah,
I would say he's an officer. They made him look like one. I don't know how they did. Like they got a model of an officer and said that's going to be him. And to this day, if I had to close my eyes and think what a police officer should look like, it'll look like the big boss man.
yeah, totally. Because that's who they made it so great for him to look like that. You know,
And even when they
and
brought out his enemies like the Mountie and Nails, Nails
yeah,
looked like a psychotic convict. I thought he was. The
yeah,
Mountie was another great character.
they transitioned Jacques Rougeau from a plain bland Canadian wrestler to a Mountie. They had
And I
with the
mean,
whole
don't get me
outfit and
wrong, I
everything.
liked him as a tag team. The Rougeau brothers were
Yeah,
solid in the 80s. They were a good tag team.
they were
But
funny.
yeah, they weren't colorful. They weren't. And when he came out as the Mountie, he was totally different. And, and he had a very good mouthpiece, Jimmy Hart. And
Yeah,
he just went to town with that gimmick. He had the stick and the prod and everything. But total good time. And that was that 92, 93, 94 era. WWE gets a lot of crap for it of being cartoonish. I love it. I love the cartoon era of wrestling. I think it was fun having all these characters like your Skinner and Max Moon
remember
and all
when they
these
turned
weird
Rick
guys.
Martel heel?
Rick Martel was one of the best, the model.
Yeah, I would never have thought he was a heel. He was always a baby face, and they did a
Oh, as the
great job
tag
of
team with
converting
the
him.
Can-Am Express.
Yeah,
Can-Am when he was with
with Tom
Tito
Zane.
Santana.
Yeah, Tom Zane and Tito Santana.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just fit well as a heel. He did it like night and day. He just switched up.
He really did. And his character really it was one of those really underrated characters because he should have had more gold. I really think he should have beat Michaels for that title. And I think they should
Yes,
have let him take over that Shawn Michaels role for a little bit because his model character was great. And he had his sister kind of play by his side for a little bit, Sherry.
yeah,
So it worked nice. I just think he just didn't get the right pushes. But he was a solid mid card wrestler and just always held it down.
yeah. And it was like he could have been the top. He could have held that title down because he was AWA World Champion. He knew what it was to be the top man, top person. You know, so he's wrestled in Japan all over the world. He could have did that run as an Intercontinental title or even heavyweight. if they, but I guess they just wanted to keep him mid-level. Like, sorry, Rick.
Again, at that time, I think it had to do with, size and wrestling and heavyweight title. They only wanted heavyweight wrestlers. Hogan, Andre, Savage, Warrior. They never took any of the mid cards until late 90s or mid 90s, until like Bret Hart became champion. And
Yeah,
then,
I'm surprised they
Shawn
didn't try
Mike,
to get Rick Rude. Rick Rude
he,
was
he
like
was
he
he
was.
was this close. He was this close to beating Ultimate Warrior, but then Warrior retained. They should have swapped it. He should have held that title for a little bit during that run.
I was glad. I think it was NWA or WCW, whatever time it was, that he got a world title and
Yeah,
everything.
he was another one that was just a great character. When he came out, you knew what time it was. It was Rick Rude's moment to talk, and everybody just shut up. And he did things with the crowd. He was very entertaining. I love seeing like they would used to scroll on the crowd. And I used to love seeing like the women, they would all get excited and like goo goo guys, and you see the guys just give dirty faces. It was hilarious.
Yeah, and you got that heat. Like when Johnny told us, he's like, you want to be able to do. Like, I didn't know Rick Rude was a face too. He was a face too in the South when he started. But like, you want to be able to do both sides. Like I did a show in Queens, and a guy was no Georgia just recently in Marietta, and the promoter was like, "Hey man, I know we had you billed as a face, no, as a heel going against this kid, but what you call, we're gonna switch you up to a face." I was like, "Alrighty then, okay." I said I could do both, whatever you want. But then Johnny says you always want to do that, but then he always had more fun as a heel. Like when he
Heel's
was the
fun.
super, yeah, when he was at Super Medics, but in Puerto Rico at the time, you had to be careful because they used to throw like rocks. They put little
Yeah,
things and they peg you with rocks. There was people that sell rocks outside, and they would make money to the fans selling rocks, and they stick and put it in their pants pocket. They go in, and they see the heel, boom, boom, they peddling you with rocks or coins and
yeah.
everything.
But that's the thing, as the heel, it's a little bit more, I would say loose. You can make some mistakes. If you make mistakes and the crowd boos, that's fine. It's continuing. Whereas if you're the baby face, you can't have that crowd boo at all. You have to have them 100% behind you. That's
Yep,
hard. That's
you
hard.
gotta.
I think that's harder.
Oh yeah, when I'm the face, I know I have to let the heat be put on me. So when it's time for me to build, the crowd gets behind me and everything. So it's like, oh, come on, Cornerman, Cornerman, and you get the fire up and everything. But then you're the heel, you always pounding. Some people like, oh, like the new kids I'm training, I was like, I said, what you want to be? I want to be heel, heel, heel. I'm like, yo, all right, somebody got, when we take corners, all right, someone's got to be faced. I said, we got to keep this equal amount. But everybody wants to be a heel. It's like, because it's cool. Oh, I'm going to beat you up. They want to do it. But I tell them all the time, like Johnny taught me, you have to learn both sides
Learn
because,
both. You
yeah,
never know
because,
when you're gonna need it.
yeah, if a promoter says, hey, man, I got a spot open, but it's only a face spot. And then what you going to say? Oh, I'm usually a heel. All right, then you just lost a spot, you know?
I mean, those little four words, card subject to change, that's important.
Yeah,
'Cause you can get on shows that way. There've been people, mistakenly got on shows because that way, and got good careers out of it. You hear about it. They get breaks. But you're right. If you can't play the part, you don't even get a shot at that.
yeah. They ask you, all right, can you do it? He's like, well, I only do this. Like, I did a seminar with NXT Evolve right before the world went to crap in 2019, and it was with Robbie Brookside of NXT, and he had us do cartwheels. Never in my life did I do a cartwheel in Johnny Rod's training school, but I didn't go up when it was my turn. I just did it. Some kid went up and said, "Oh, I never did a cartwheel," and he's like, "Okay, get out the ring." And the kid just looked at him like, and then it was left side, bro. Johnny always taught us right. We just started doing left side because of the Money Mark guy I mentioned. He was a Mexican luchador. He started teaching the other side, and then it stuck a little bit. So sometimes Johnny still does that, but he could care less because he's more American style with right side.
Yeah.
So, but then we go to do a roll. Bobby Brookside had me do left too. But I went in, same deal. I just did it. Wasn't all that crisp. But then another person said, "Oh, I never did this." So it's like in the end, when we were done with the seminar and the matches, the trial matches, he said, "The worst thing you can do at a seminar or tryout is say that you can't. You never did it, because then you're not coachable."
No,
And
you're
they said,
already showing your experience, and you're already showing that you know what where your will is, and the will should be I can do anything.
"Yeah, you don't know until you do it, or maybe like say they do sign you. At least you know they know. Okay, he's coachable. He's willing to do it. It'll take some time, but we'll coach him. As opposed to someone that no, I'm not. I can't do it. So if they tell you, okay, do it, oh, I can't do it. Why waste their time with you? You already put in a bad stain on yourself, a bad stamp on yourself already. Like not coachable.
Yeah, it's you got to have the right attitude and mentality, especially I feel like in today's scene because it is very competitive. There's a million people out there looking for spots. There's a lot of good talent out there. On the indie scene, it's stacked. It's overstacked. Look at New England alone. We have a lot of top names out there every weekend just destroying it. So if you can't do it, you will be replaced like that.
Yeah. And then I was talking to these other indie guys. Whenever I go to out of town, I go to Tampa. If I went to Georgia recently. Those are the two states I went to recently, and I speak to these people, and I'm like, "How's the indie scene in your town?" And then there's like, "Man, we leave. We got to leave Georgia." One said, "We got to leave Tampa. We got to leave Florida because it's so saturated and everything."
It is. Oh well, Florida I heard is pretty just a lot anyways. It's because where NXT is down there. So if you're not in part of that, then there's a bunch of schools that will take you, and they kind of piggyback off that. I didn't know so much about Georgia. Um, I
Yeah,
mostly stay in New England. I do watch out in West Virginia. I got some friends out there. That's becoming a stacked area. A lot of good promotion. A new promotion just opened. It's kind of like a throwback ECW promotion. Looks really cool. But again, no matter what state you go to, you're going to find top talent. And again, these shows get filled and you're going to have to travel. And some guys don't want to travel. That's another thing. Um,
you got to now. You got to because
it's
if
no
not,
longer
you're just
just,
gonna be what Johnny calls a loco moco. He calls the people to, wow, you're just gonna be a loco moco and everything. And sometimes you gotta take that drive. And then I sometimes on these little Twitter X pod host, it's like a group
yep,
chat that Gabe Sapolsky does and everything. And then you hear everybody on there that says sometimes they got to come out of pocket just to go do a fed out of town because, like I mentioned, they're either to get other opportunities so they could get a national name. Like, okay, something. I found a booking in, like in my case, I found a booking in Georgia. The promoter hooked me up with a hotel, but then I flew myself out there. And so, and I was because I just wanted to get another state in my name
well,
and
that's
get
the thing. And you got to kind of, it gets broken down. Do you want to make like a payday or do you want exposure? Sometimes you're not going to make the payday, but you're going to get a high exposure. You're going to have to
yeah,
pay to I mean, like anything else, you're gonna get what you put in. Sometimes you gotta put into your career. That includes travel, that includes
investment.
stays,
Yep.
it includes, new gear, ring gear, good wrestling gear, it includes, promotional photos, things to sell, merchandise. All of this adds up, but it makes you more of a complete package for promoters to hire you.
It's like a musician and an actor. The actors sometimes got to take little small parts till they get that big part. They'll have to maybe go to another state and do a little small part. Musicians do these small little towns and everything in hopes for a big break. Everything's in hope and just for exposure, because you don't know where that lead gonna come from.
No, you don't know who's going to be at that show. You don't know who's watching IWTV at the time or what, big promoter might be like, hey, that's just the spot we need. We're looking for somebody, You never know when that break could happen. So you should always just kind of, you know, be available, be ready, and be professional.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned gear part. So I got these new kids. They see, they know I go out every now and then, do some indies and everything. They're like, Coach, man, can you take us? I said, if we go into certain feds, I'm not taking y'all. I can't. Because I know you're not investing. I see y'all social media, y'all out there partying with hookahs, buying new video games, buying this and that, going out with your friends. But then when we do practice promos and I tell you bring gear, your gear doesn't fit your character. If you're a demon, where's your demon gear? Play the part and everything. If you want me to take you, like I took a few kids to Massachusetts Fed called Howard. It's Hispanic. Yeah, it's based out of Springfield and Holyoke. They've been around for some years, but they mostly cater to like the Hispanic community. And I took some guys with me, and then the gear, I was like, and everybody locked me was like, Charlie, man, with some of the, I'm like, and then he didn't want to take his shirt off. He had a singlet, but he put a t-shirt on top of the singlet. I said, dude, you have a singlet. Let the singlet rock. Why you got some Fruit of the Loom t-shirt on? And everything. Take that t-shirt off. And everybody else told him too. It's like, go out there. If you're embarrassed about your body, then you know what you got to do. You got to hit the gym. But you have a singlet on. You ain't Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens could rock the t-shirt. That's his deal. He got the cutoffs. But Kevin Owens can move. He can do all types of things. And he still got height too. So you can't compare yourself to Kevin Owens.
But that's another thing, like going back where everybody was kind of different. It's kind of like knowing what your body type is, knowing what your limits are, using that to create your character and using that, for a pro. Don't make yourself a character in something that you can't even, begin to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you will see that, unfortunately, on the scene. Somebody will have a character and it's like, well, you can't do any of that yet. Oh, I'm working towards it. Well, start somewhere else first and then get there.
Don't, because then you kill that gimmick. Like people, like just do something you can do at the moment and then save that for later. Hopefully, like you said, when you can do it. Don't do it now. Don't be like this hot. I'm not. We had a kid that used to be called something extreme. So Sister Striker, he just came back from the WWE. So now he's just chilling. He just came by to the gym, check out the show. So then this kid comes to the curtain and he's like, extreme, something extreme. And then he got this depressed face from the curtain. When he comes out the curtain, like somebody kidnapped him to perform. Like put a gun to his back, you're gonna wrestle tonight, kid. He was like, oh man, damn it. And he's supposed to be extreme coming out the curtain. He's supposed to be woo. And he's like droopy dog or something.
Like
depressed.
What's going on here? What's your character? Like, yeah, and then sometimes this is that disconnect, and it's like, I mean, I know everybody wants, this high, exciting character, something, like you said, demon or something, big, or you've seen wrestlers like Kane, Undertaker, this and that. But there's also, just wrestlers that are wrestlers, and you just pick a name, you pick a gimmick, and it's something very simple, even just starting out, something very simple. It doesn't have to be complex, just something workable and something sellable.
Yeah. Like this girl, she was at NXT for a bit. She was from Johnny Rods, MJ Jenkins. She had did the tryout when she was down there at the PC. And then she called because I was getting bored. I would do a mask gimmick. And then I would do a party version of Juan Jeremy. I cut away from Cornerman. And then she told me, Charlie, go back to Cornerman because there's no Cornerman. And then embrace your Ecuadorian side because everybody's Puerto Rican. They don't have an Ecuadorian because my mother's Ecuadorian, my father's Puerto Rican Jew. And then I was like, okay. Because I was just doing just coming out partying, like a Latino party dude, club dude. And then, but everybody was basic dude. There was always that little lover boy party dude, Hispanic guy. So she
Yeah.
was like, embrace your Ecuadorian culture, go back to Cornerman. So then I got one of my colorful outfits that embraces the Ecuadorian colors. And then I went back to Cornerman. And then that's when my other friend gave me contact emails to WWE. And I was in contact with the guy, Paul Fair, Canyon Seaman, who everybody talks about, would say he would just disrespect you in emails, but say you're not gonna do it, you're not gonna do this, you're not gonna be a WWE star. Like Gargano and Adam Cole talks about him, and other. You ask anybody who probably was around trying to get a tryout in 2018, 2017, probably 2019, maybe. I think Canyon Seaman was there. He was like the shrewd talent relation guy. Like you write to him, there's nothing for you. Or then soon as he'll tell you, he'll tell me, do this. Like he's the one that told me, like, keep your social media names very, the same. I don't need to be jumping from different names, looking for different names.
Keep
So
everything
that
uniform.
uniform. So
Yep.
I did that, and then he's like, I want to see more social media activation. So I started doing that, little segments. And then I finally did that. Then he's like, okay, I'm gonna give you Paul Fair. So Paul Fair hooked me up, and I was talking. So he said, don't write to me, write to Paul Fair moving forward. So then Paul Fair hooked me up with Ryan Katz and Drake Works and everything. And Ryan Katz and Drake Works were the NXT extra people at the time. Everybody was writing to John Cone. Everybody wanted to be on Raw and SmackDown extra. Every time I write to John Cone, I didn't have that luck. So I was like, all right, I'm going the next route. I'm going to get NXT extra work and just go straight to the Full Sail kind of thing. And then I had two good extra gigs over there. Like September 2019, I did a skit with Walter when Killian Dane and Matt Riddle were fighting out from the ring of Full Sail to the dock. And I'm there sitting with this kid from Ken Anderson School, JDX. We're just talking to Walter, and then all hell breaks loose. The Imperium starts fighting with Bianca Belair's boyfriend and his partner. I forgot. I'm blanking out right now. But Street Profits.
Yep. Yep.
And then the Imperium and Killian Dane and everything. They're all fighting, and there's like a whole melee. So you see me out there for 15 seconds, and then the second time I went was 2019, December. There was a skit when Keith Lee was running through the barricades and like charging through people constantly. So I think he did that to Finn Balor. I think it was Balor that he hit and everything. So they just needed three guys. And they believed it were fans. They wanted to get hit through the barricades. And they didn't want fans to get hit. So they just got workers.
You need someone that could bump, yeah.
Yeah, so when the barricade hits, breaks, and goes, Keith Lee hits, I think it was Balor. Boom, breaks. At least there's not fans. So fans can't say, oh, we're going to sue you.
Yeah.
We signed a release form, so and he's like, Ryan Katz was like, nah, Charlie, don't worry, man, you don't want this skit. It's just something lame. So at first I was bummed out. I'm like, damn, I want to get on TV again, But then he said, I got something better for all of you. It was me and some other people, and we get to the back. He said, don't, I'll be right back. Regal's going to sit and talk to y'all for 90 minutes, Q&A. That actually was way better. It was like one of those little round tables, and me and some other indie workers, and we just sitting there kicking it with like a game of poker, kicking it with all we was missing was some maybe some joints, some whiskey and some cards and everything. Like the Goodfellas scene when
Yep. Everybody's
they
just
shoot
sitting
Spider,
around.
they all sitting around. That's all we was. But the guys on the round table kicking it with Regal, and then Regal telling us what we shouldn't do. The mistake he did, like don't kill our body with bumps until it's very necessary for those big high class shows. That's why he got into the situation that he was in. I'm not sure if you know the history of him with his abuse.
No.
He had drug abuse. I think it was painkillers or something else. It was due to the pain and everything. He spoke about it highly and everything in other podcasts and everything. And substance abuse, he called it. Something I want to say painkillers, but he said, you know, they say watch your bump card when you get older in the game. He said, no, man, do it from now on, moving forward. Don't kill yourself to get those nice little gifts and everything, because in your body, you don't know if you're going to be signed down the road. If not, and then you're broken already. And then that's when the
Can't walk, can't do this.
WWE's going to want you for like 6 days going.
Yeah.
And
Even
then
if
you
he gets
broken.
signed, you won't be able to do much. You'll be like, oh.
Yeah. You signed and all of a sudden you already broken.
And again, I think that goes again, like we were talking the different eras. In the earlier eras, people went, I will say, walls to the balls at shows, especially in the late '90s, early 2000s. They would do the highest jumps, who can jump the highest, crazy chair shots, bumps. ECW, Mick Foley, hardcore. A lot of wrestlers destroyed themselves, and years later can't do nothing.
Yeah.
Where
If you
now
look at Johnny
athletes do take it more like, yeah, okay, we'll watch our bump count. We're only going to do this here. We're not going to do this. No, they'll say, no, I'm not doing that. The longevity game is much more prevalent now. People try to get, a 20 or 30-year career out of it, maybe longer, where before, maybe 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
And then they would be out. They'd be done.
That instant gratification. Oh, you saw that guy did that crazy bump, man. He went from the cage all the way down. It's like, yeah, nah, chill.
And
Like
everybody today also wants to be viral, but that, and thank God there wasn't so much TikTok and Instagram and Facebook in the early thousands, because I think the spots would have even been crazier if there was like 1,000 cameras on them.
Oh yeah, totally. Because
I could just think
it
of
was
some of
that
the stuff
crazy
like
era,
New Jack did, and some of those dives.
and people were heavy in that, still in that rock star mentality of drinking, perks, saunas. Like a few people I knew died of the saunas and everything, or new take.
Don't forget the stimulants. I mean that was
Yeah,
just prevalent all throughout wrestling, anyways. And yeah, you still have that kind of Coke era coming into the early 2000s from the '80s
yeah,
guys. They would be bringing it into shows and bringing it to the new people. Hey, he's
yeah.
still
And then
doing
the new
blow.
people wanted to fit in, so then they transitioned it to the new era to the other kids, like the 2000. It was like the chain command, like monkey see, monkey do. Oh man, I
Yeah.
gotta be cool like so and so. He was doing it. He showed me it was cool. It's like the steroids. A buddy of mine. This is a funny story, bro. And I'm gonna tell you a sidetrack story. I go to a nightclub. I never really smoked cigarettes. I did smoke weed back in the day. I ain't gonna lie. But cigarettes I tried. Nah. So I go to a nightclub with my friends. This is the time when New York you could smoke weed. I mean
Yeah.
cigarettes.
You're right.
So I see this girl pretty hot, and I'm like, oh man, let me try to. I need to break the ice. So I said, hey, you got another cigarette? She's like, yeah, yeah. Boom. She gives it to me. I put it in my mouth, but I put it the wrong way. Wah, wah, wah. Did I get the number? No. More like zip, zip, zero and everything. But it was a sign. It wasn't meant for me. Now, fast forward, a buddy of mine gave me some it was like, I'm going to say it was like some kind of liquid steroid, something like that. It was something liquid or like strong. Not, it wasn't like a creatine. It was some kind of liquid steroid. And you had to take it before workout and you took it after. So I take it and then I hop on a train. Then all of a sudden my stomach, whoa, And then the train is in New York City. Sometimes we get there's a slight delay. Red signals. Train is
Can't
moving shortly, and you're like, oh, man. I'm like this. I'm like,
be a
oh,
delay now.
yeah. Then I get to the stop, and I'm walking all stiff and quick to the gym, and then I used to go join the Bally's right across the street from the old famous Limelight nightclub, and I'm waiting for them to open up the gym. It's like I think they used to open at 5:30 or 6 a.m. It was something around that. And they come in and they open up the door. I ran. I dropped my bag. I said, I'll swipe my membership card in a bit. I got to use the bathroom. Boom. I left my gym bag right at the front desk. I ran downstairs quick. Not ran, but like speed walked because I had to keep the booty tight. And like, I get to the bathroom. I just made it, bro. And that thing came out like a waterfall. It didn't sit well in my stomach. And I told my homeboy, yo, you see this? I threw it in the garbage. I said, I don't need it. I was like, no way. It didn't sit in my stomach well.
If that's gonna do that, you don't need that.
Hell no.
And
Dude, I don't know. I don't know. To this day, I don't know what the hell he gave me. And he was like, no, it's like the steroid, get you bigger, get you pumped. I was like, I don't know what the hell you gave me, bro. But
some
you
shit
know what I'm
out of
saying?
the gas station not gonna help me.
Yeah, I didn't know what the hell it was, and I said, never again, B. Don't ever. I want to know nothing. I'll do what Johnny Rod says. Johnny Rod says, you want to get big, boy? You eat steak, drink beer, and boil potato. You boil the potato in water. That's the real man steroid.
That's the Irish diet.
Yeah. He's like, eat a nice big steak, boiled potato, and beer. He said, that's what we used to do. He's like, the guys used to do it, but look at us. We just big. We lifted. I lift weights with Snooker, Johnson, Bruno Sammartino. He's like, Bruno Sammartino, look at he could bench the guy. Look at him, you don't think, but he was a big, strong Italian man.
And that's the thing, like, like you keep saying, they might have not have had the muscle actual masses to look at, or all these, it says six packs, but they had the strength to go along with it. They had the endurance, they had the, they could put on a match. They weren't gassed, they weren't winded. They had the endurance and stamina. They
Yeah,
were in shape. They just didn't look it. Just different body types again.
yeah. Tony, there's this guy. He used to be enhancement worker for WWE and NWA. Tony Russo. Google him. You look at him. He looks like some chubby guy, just round plump. And then Johnny said, the guy can go. He's a great shooter. He can move around, get you. He was and everything. He was a great worker. And I was like, whoa. I remember Tony Russo more NWA. Then I started watching it WWE old school. And then I saw he was part of the enhancement crew too.
Yeah, I
And
mean, if you watch any of those early Raws, or when Raw used to basically just be, a known superstar versus enhancement talent, you could see a lot of names in that, those early Raws, and a lot of them were really good guys, good talent.
yeah, the Hardy's boys started off in enhancement. Dwayne Gill, even you could find like Billy Gunn, Mr. Perfect in the early days. His first Eddie Gilbert, they were all like Johnny Rods wrestled him, and they would turn out to be later on like Mr. Perfect, you know. And it's
And
all he say you got to be humble. With Johnny says, and your time will come. Or if you never get to the big time, you can at least learn the business and see what you
yeah,
can do out of it.
and that's the thing. Like anything else, you can learn how to run a theme park without working for Disney. Same thing with
Yeah,
wrestling. You can learn how to run a successful wrestling business without being WWE or being that large. Even you don't need to be. You can be at a lower level. It's okay.
yeah.
Um,
The guy
you
from
know,
GCW, I think Brett Lauderdale, I think or something
yeah,
like that.
Brett.
Yeah, he's got something good going out there. The only thing I didn't like was when he did the Hammerstein
Yeah.
in Manhattan, and he got all these names. I said, man, dude, you already sold out without the names. With some of the big names that popped up, he sold out that venue before their names were even mentioned. So I think, like me personally, if I would have knew that, I was like, I don't got to bring no other people. We just sold out. That money could have went in my pockets.
He took the money and threw it back in and made it
Yeah,
even a bigger show.
yeah, because now you got to pay those people that popped up on a surprise tip, you know, like a special attraction later. That, oh my God, he's here. They say John Cena is here. Oh my God, John Cena's here. But he wasn't advertised. Oh,
Well, that's
now I
big
got to pay
money.
John Cena. Yeah, now you got to, now that's money from the door. Now you got to cough it up. And it's like, damn. Where you could use that money and use it more for reinvest. That's just the only thing I didn't like. But maybe he had some sponsors, and it probably was a wish wash. Who knows? But
I think
in
he
my
was
opinion,
surprised. I think he was a little surprised, honestly, how well that show actually sold because it was kind of a gamble.
yeah,
Um, and anything honestly extreme like that is a gamble in New York. When I went to that XPW show, it was in New York. You know, you got Schlack in there fighting a match. He starts to bleed a little. The commissioner shuts the match down. If you know anything about Schlack, he works crazy death matches.
yeah,
This dude he just looks around like what the F and walks away like he didn't know the New York laws. The fans that didn't know what was up, they were like, what's going on and confused. I happen to know that, in New York, you can't bleed. They'll shut it down.
yeah,
It wasn't on purpose. It was by accident. He hit the chair, but still the same,
yeah. You
So
can't.
with GCW being known for violence, it was a gamble kind of getting out of that realm, but they did really well.
Yeah. Now with the whole blood thing, and another thing you have to remember in New York, Johnny would tell us when we would do shows in Gleason's, and I would give the speech too every now and then when Johnny was busy. Do not go crazy. Do not get hurt. Because Johnny whole thing is with the commission, you got to have an ambulance present. Now, say it's the first match, Captain America against Doctor Evil in a match, and they go crazy with high spots, and Captain America gets hurt, and now the ambulance we're to a point where he has no one that can transport him to the hospital. Now the ambulance got to transport him to the local hospital. There's no more longer an ambulance present. The show is cut off.
Can't
The
do
show is
nothing.
done. Unless, like, say, Captain America's friend Superman is there and he wants to say, Superman's going to drive Captain America to the hospital. Don't worry about it. Then that's good. The show goes on because the
That
ambulance does not
ambulance
leave.
is that ambulance has to stay there no matter what, basically.
Right. Unless they dispatch an ambulance and come and replace. But that'll be extra money because now you're paying for one ambulance.
You're
That
playing for
just
a
that
detail, basically, and now you need someone to actually work.
yeah. So now they left. So then he used to tell us, nope. I remember this one dude, he got hurt, and then it was like the second or third match, and then he's like, "Oh, my shoulder," and then they told the guy, "No, you're going to put this guy in a cab, and you're going with him. He's not the ambulance not taking him." Who told y'all to do some crazy spot? And they told my boy, "Who you've been here longer than that kid? Why did you take that move? If you know you never trained with this kid, you don't know how if he could do it." And the kid came up with he was doing a big heavy kid wanted to do the crossroads on this other guy, and they didn't do it right. And the guy never even trained. The kid with the crossroads hardly ever trained. He only came when there was a show. We used to just call him pop up.
Oh
Whenever we
boy.
had it, yeah, we always had these people that called the pop ups. They didn't ever
Yep.
come to train, but when they heard the show, they would come a few days before, get some tickets. So they sold tickets, and they get some tickets from Johnny. And like, hey Johnny, can I get 20 tickets? And Johnny's like, for what? No, I'm gonna sell something, but you haven't been here training. But then Johnny will give him anyway for the 20 tickets. But he'll put him in like gauntlets, not one-on-ones, but like a gauntlet or a 10-man match where
There
like
was never no like mass transit incidents with these kids, were there?
nah.
They
and
weren't
everything.
that bad then.
Nah, it was like one or two people. That person now went to another school to train and everything. But every
Yeah.
time I see it, I don't think he's not putting that much work because he's been in that other school for a while, and every time they have a school show or an event, I don't see his name on the
He's not on
on
the
the
card, so
results.
he's just like, they're like, go find work elsewhere. Go to this better. They'll take
Yeah,
you.
he's been
We're
there
not
for a
ready for you
while.
yet.
That he should at least got a pre-show,
Yeah,
and
or at
I
least be
don't see it.
security or something, right? Do security
Yeah,
work.
just tells you a lot.
But yeah, I mean, it is an industry. You get what you give, and you got to put a lot into it if you want any return. I have to say, just watching guys and girls that go out there, and the ones that do succeed. You mentioned somebody very successful on the scene in one of your first sentences. I'm a huge fan of hers, Masha Slim. But she puts a
Yeah,
lot of work into it. She has a great career. She's moving places. She's getting bigger and bigger. She's gone to new, promotions even bigger than she was in.
yeah. When she came back from Japan, I said, "Girl, you got momentum. You better go full speed ahead." Johnny's not doing those shows right now, so and to now, Johnny's not doing shows. So I'm trying to coach these kids. I said, yeah, I'm going because now I've been I've been around for a year. So I told Johnny, I'm like toward my end run. I'm already doing this. I'm not stopping. I'm still enjoying it, so I'm gonna go. Now those other kids, you guys, you don't want them doing indies. Some power to them. But I told those kids, I was like, listen, Johnny's not doing shows, so it's up to y'all. I'm like, y'all either got to do something to get yourself known, get the WWE to notice you, do some stuff, do some videos, put it on the recruit site, write to AEW or MLW, find some contacts. But there is no shows happening here. At least when we had the shows before the world went to crap, we could have did shows. We gave them footage. They had footage. Put it on their YouTube channel. We did promos. We did skits, segments. But Johnny's not doing that right now because he's not feeling well like he used to be with his sickness. He had a heart attack, all this other stuff, cardio stuff. But he's still moving way better than some of these other wrestlers in their 40s and 50s and 60s. He just turned, what, 82, 83 and everything, born 41. So he's still
I
going.
mean, that's a good run.
Yeah. But he says it. He's like, Juanito, I'm just a robot right now because he got the pacemaker inside, he got
Yeah,
that. So they monitor him and everything. And
but he's
so he's
also
like,
in his 80s. I mean,
yeah,
again, you
you
got
know,
people in their 40s with that. And like you said, if you can, he still has the drive. It's just you might not have the body for it. Um,
yeah, like he'll tell us what to do. He's like, I can't go in there and do a role and tell you, but I could explain it to you. You know, it is what it is, you know, and you just listen. It's all timing. It's a timing. You got to time it. Know when to do it. Know when to sell. Know when to register. Know the in betweens and everything. And never forget the fans. A lot of people just want to work for the locker room and everything.
yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, there's no point in selling to the boys in the back. They're not paying the bills.
Right. You don't acknowledge the crowd. Like there could be a kid looking for you. Like when I'm a face, when I tell a heel to beat me up, I say, yo, give me some space because I'm looking for a kid. And then I go crawling up like this, like dragging, like creating some drama with the kid, like help me, man, please. And I
But
just
that
tell the
gets
heel,
him behind you, and he'll be like, "Oh, I hope he wins," and it gives
yes,
a connection, and it gives a connection that you can't find in WWE or AEW because it's too large. And that's what's great about the indie scene. You can really connect with the fans. You can really get in
yes,
there, and you can really draw them in, and you can get them to be, come back and just to see you. It can happen. You just got to utilize everything right, like you said. Look, watch the crowd, read it. Oh, there's kids there. Let me, grab their attention. Let me get their sympathy. Or on the hill, let me upset them a little. Let me ruffle their feathers a little bit. That will make them remember me. And when I come out next time, they're gonna hate me even more.
yeah. Like the show in Georgia, Marietta, the crowd loved me, and that's the first time seeing me. I was new. I'm brand new. The only other people there that knew me was my cousin, who I hadn't seen since my dad's funeral. And before that, I hadn't seen her in years. So I wanted to see her again on better terms, you know. And then I didn't know she was gonna be there. Luckily, I wasn't a heel because I would have broke kayfabe right there when I saw her because my cell phone when I get to the locker room I usually just put it on the side and I politic and I want to get to meet other wrestlers and find out the ins and out of the territory. Like there's some cats that they were there from Arizona, and they were telling me that it wasn't the Fed's not really saturated. They were telling me about Georgia. What they told me in Arizona is promoter beef. Like if you
Oh,
work for one promoter and they
you
find out you
can't
working
work
for
for
another,
another.
yeah. I was like, what is that? WCW Raw? Like
Some
NW?
places in the indie scene they want it inclusive, and it's like we're all independent. That's the point, right? But yeah,
Yeah,
there'll be beef like that, and sometimes you'll even hear about it like here, but it doesn't last long, or it doesn't. The talent will squash it when somebody will be like, "Well, if you work for them, don't work for us." It's like they'll be like, "No, it doesn't work like that." But yeah, in other territories, like it's serious.
yeah. I was like, what? When they told me Georgia, then I was like, what about Arizona, guys? Because there was a group of kids from Arizona, and I'm like, they told me that. I was like, oh shit, hey, you
But
know.
we're just about out of time. I just got two more questions for you. One, as I was going to ask, is if you had any advice for someone walking into the industry today or wanting to be part of it, what would you tell them?
I say, don't expect instant gratification. You know that, and you're not entitled. Wrestling don't owe you nothing. Like, learn. Like I get some kids that want to train, you know, and then I tell them to do this one move, then all of a sudden they surprise me and try to give me a move. And luckily Johnny taught me moves and most. I don't teach all my tricks to my students. And I'm like, whoop, whoop. And then and I hit him, boom. He's like, eh. And I'm like, yo, what the hell? He was trying to give me a German. I said, duck the line, go behind and roll back, push him to the rope. And then, oh, I want to do a German. No, it doesn't work like that, you know. And then you get people that want to do that because they feel, oh, I paid tuition, I paid Johnny this amount. So, you know, and plus instant gratification. Like I have to do, when can I get on the show? Dude sporadically comes and trains once in the blue. Sporadic. You're not even putting in time. Like Johnny used to tell us when I first joined, he says, like say 3 years later, like you're a member of Johnny. You joined 2020. That's an easy number to go. It's 2023. If Johnny asks you, how long you been training with me, pa? And you're gonna be like, oh, 3 years. No. Have you been training with me 365 days times three? No. So you don't really get 3 years of learning, even though you joined in 2020. He said there's a lot to learn. So he gets more technical about it. When you say, oh, I've been training with you, you can say, I've been with you, Johnny, since 2020. Don't ever tell him, oh, I've been training with you since 2020, Johnny. He'll be like, no, because you haven't been with me. One, my gym is now open 7 days a week. So you can't get that. You can't do the math. So he'll get you there. He gets very technical and everything. But instantly, I would say no instant gratification and everything. I had this one girl, very pretty, very charismatic. She caught on quick, but like she expected instant gratification. And then she's like, and then she wanted to learn quick, blah, blah, blah. Who, oh, but I said, girl, yes, you're picking up, but there's far more to this. There's the politics because I saw she was very sensitive. Anything that was said to her, she would take to heart. I said, you're going to have a turtle shell back because if you're expecting, it's a dangerous world out there. And one, you're a girl. There's going to be guys trying to take advantage of you. Tell you, hey, girl, I could take you to the top, man. Just start riding the car with me. You go to carpool. I've taken these different feds. You don't know. That's how probably Me Too's happen or um, the guy's probably gonna expect something. And I said, how you gonna react? Or maybe you might think he's doing that, but he's not. Then you might snap. I said, there's a lot of politics. Then the whole thing with the promoters and everything. And then you're gonna have to do more social media. You're gonna have these crazy weirdo fans that might ask you, hey, do you have any old gear to sell? And you're like, what? But
I mean, like, yeah, like within any fandom, there's weird and creepy people everywhere.
yeah,
Wrestling's no different, and it's not
yeah,
even just for the girls. The guys get weird messages too. You should see
yeah,
some of the stuff they say to some of the guys. And you do have to have a thick skin and kind of just, block, delete, just
yeah,
disregard. But also stay vigilant, stay on your toes. Things can happen,
yeah.
unfortunately.
So I tried to tell
Um,
him, it's like, there's another side. I was like, yes, we're teaching you the ring. You're very charismatic with promos. Like, you're a quick learner, I told him. But there's the politics. It's the political side of it that you got to learn, and you got to know how to politic.
and,
And
that's
you
how
may not like it.
HBK and that's how Triple H and HBK got where they are. That's why he is where he is. Triple H was all politics.
Yep.
He wasn't a top-notch superstar when he first walked in. He politicized himself to get to the top, and they all did. They all, made it
Yeah.
so they could get what they want. And
Who would have thought terrorizing would be where he's at?
exactly. um,
Yeah.
but
And what was the second
I
question?
think yes. And I was gonna say I think that's some great advice for the kids coming in. Second question is gonna be just, like something I like to ask everybody. Where can we find you on social media? Where can people, tune in, follow you and all of that fun stuff?
Well, thanks to Canyon Seaman, I tried my best to keep my name very unique. And it's Juan Jeremy 100, JuanJeremy 100. And if y'all want to find some merch for Johnny Rods, he gave me permission where I got Johnny Rods merch and myself at my Pro Wrestling Tees Cornerman store.
Ooh, I
Now,
have
if
to
you
check
don't
that
want a
out.
Cornerman, but you want the unpredictable Johnny Rods, or you got Cornerman, unpredictable Johnny Rods in my store. So you can grab either merch. People were like, why don't you just get your own shirts? And I'm like, my buddy thought he was a great indie star when we first started. He made a whole bunch of shirts. He wound up having selling them because you had to get cheaper. You had to buy bulk,
Yep.
but you don't have a fan base yet. And it's like you had all these shirts, and then by that time he wanted to get new shirts. I'm like, you get new shirts, you're gonna have all those still.
And then you got to play the sizes. How do you know? How do you
Yeah,
possibly know the sizes?
I was like, something. He still like, no. I'm sticking with Pro Wrestling Tees. I don't. If I get a little email saying, "Oh, you got a sale," big deal, bam. Unless I find something unique that I sell, like maybe Cornerman whistles, to annoy wrestlers. I get a little Cornerman whistle. I was thinking about that, and that's about it. Then yeah, I'll get that and I'll sell it at the venues. But t-shirts, no, I'm not carrying that because I know maybe I might bump into a whole bunch of kids that want a bunch of smalls, and all I got is adult larges. 20 kids. Can we get 20 small shirts? It's like, I don't have, sorry, kids. So I never, when I was able to get that pro wrestling tee, I did it, and I was like, boom. But it's a pro wrestling tee store. It should be
And it's a
Cornerman or
lot easier. And
Cornerman
you don't
One
have
Shot.
to deal with the shipping. You don't have to deal with,
Exactly.
the fans, them saying, "Oh, I never got my product. You screwed me my money," and da 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 da
Yeah.
da. It's a
Talk
whole
to pro wrestling
interaction.
tees.
I
Don't
love
come to me.
PWTs.
Don't come to me. Go to pro wrestling tees.
That is great. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate this. It's been a
No,
great
thank you
time.
for giving me a platform to talk, my brother. Much appreciated.
Thank you. And, we'll be in touch. And again, we'll check out all this great stuff. I might have to go and grab myself some tees. I'm a big merch fan. I love t-shirts. I'm going to have to go and check out that store.
Yeah, you got some cool Johnny Rods, and he got mine right there.
Great stuff. Thank you very much.
Anyway, anytime. Have a great weekend, my brother. Be safe.
You too. And thank you, everybody at home, for watching. Have yourself
Thank
a
you,
great
everybody.
weekend. Versace Stoner out.
And everybody in life needs a corner man.